Is that pretty? It's the sky out my window tonight. Well, I'm in the lounge room right now, but wanted to talk about something. Let's just change this back. Hold on. How do I do it? There we are. The thing I wanted to talk about was, I guess knowledge and how knowledge is empowering. I wanted to talk to Greg about what I just did on my computer, but he's playing Minecraft right now, so I am not afforded that luxury. So what I did was, on Linux, there are a lot of things that you can customize, right? One of the things that a lot of people customize, especially if they use a text editor called Vim, is their key bindings for caps lock and escape. Those two keys are often switched because the caps lock key is so accessible to your pinky that it just makes sense. If you're constantly using the escape key, it would why wouldn't you swap those two keys just to make it easier to hit the escape where the caps lock key is located? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, there are several different methods for swapping these two keys. One of them that I was using, it's a program or command line utility called setxkbmap. You can use this to swap caps and escape, and it works for the most part, but it's not like a super low level form of remapping. And so if you're playing a video game and you want that mapping to persist in those video games, typically it doesn't. The video game, as it's registering for keys such as caps lock and escape, it'll use the regular mappings instead. So I wanted a deeper mapping, if that made sense. Something that was more I think that makes sense, right? So something that works in all scenarios, not just for when you're typing. So I came across this package called intercept-caps number 2 escape, ESC. And this did almost exactly what I wanted it to do. You can make a rule for it in like the udev section if you run Linux that makes sense to you, sort of. It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know what's going on half the time with my system, but I've been using this form of remapping for a while now, and it's been super good, but I realized one problem with it, and this was like an intentional feature that was added to this program, or this mapping thing, and that is when you hold down the caps lock key, which is now the escape key, it acts as control, so the control modifier key. And I didn't like that behavior because when I was typing out in Vim, I'd oftentimes be running commands that I didn't want to run, like shortcuts like Control W, or if I wanted to press escape then hit W to go forward a word, I would have to like hit escape, wait a second, and then hit W, because if I tried to hit escape and W at the same time, it would register as Control W, even though I wanted escape plus W. So this is a problem for me. And I looked at various solutions, and I figured the easiest thing for me was just to download the source code of that caps to escape thing that I just installed, and change the source code and recompile it from source and have it on my system that way. The way you got it on your system before is you downloaded it through your package manager. I use Pacman because I'm on Arch Linux. And so with that method, you only get access to a binary. But in order to change the file, or change the executable, you need access to the source code. So I downloaded that and I made the necessary changes. I got rid of any occurrences of control, and that seemed to do the trick. I recompiled it, I made it an executable, and I put it in my /user/bin directory as a symbolic link to where it's stored in the source code I have downloaded. That's beside the point. I have this functionality now that I didn't have before, and it works exactly how I want it to work. Now, had I not had some sort of understanding of the C programming language before this point, I wouldn't have been able to do this, or I wouldn't have had the power to change things in the way that I wanted them to be changed. Now, this is important to me, at least, because oftentimes I'm unhappy with what I receive, and it's not really that I'm unhappy with it. I'm unhappy with the fact that I can't change the things. And that's sort of been a reoccurring theme over the past couple of years. It's some things you can't change, right? Some things you just have to learn to deal with. But we take these things as they come, and we, at least for me, I try to minimize the amount of stuff that I just have to live with. Because it's important to understand when things need to be let alone, and accepted for how they are, and that comes down to interpersonal relationships and stuff. But I don't think, in certain circumstances, you are supposed to let things exist how they are. Because sometimes there are stupid, unnecessary restrictions on things, especially software. This rings true especially in the software world, where things are just ones and zeros. It's just code, right? Code gets executed, compiled into an executable and executed. And that's as simple as it should be. But companies often turn a profit from hiding the source code and only selling, monetizing the executable that results from that source code. I don't like this way of thinking, because you have the capacity to give something away for free at no cost to you. Well, I guess the cost that you can gain is from hiding things from people. And I don't think it's worth it. For me, I don't think it's worth purposefully withdrawing information from the masses just so you can make a quick buck. To me, the value that you can gain from releasing this information to the world and having people add to it and modify it how they want, giving users that freedom, I feel adds much more worth to the world than anything that I can make monetarily by myself. So I disagree with these unnecessary restrictions that we put on things. People want to tell you how exactly you should be using their software. And I don't see that as right. Often I feel like maybe my standards are too high. This is a bit of a tangent, but I'll get back to, it'll circle around, I hope. I often worry that I can't accept people for how they are, and my standards are too high, and I think that causes me to lose a lot of potential relationships with people, lots of friendships. Do I see that as a bad thing? Is that an actual thing that goes on in my head? I'm not too sure. Because I do recognize the importance of accepting things that can't be changed. but I know you can go overboard with this, and you can. There's a bit of a siren going on. Hold on. Okay. And when it comes to the realm of things that should be able to be changed but aren't, I get really frustrated. I go out of my way to take the harder path, to use an alternative that I can change and modify on my own. But maybe with that mindset, I sort of become accustomed to making things exactly how I want them to be, and not taking a moment to think about why those things are the way that they are, and whether it should be my prerogative to go out of my way to change them, or even try. And this applies more to relationships. Like when I meet somebody and I discover a flaw that they have, I feel the need to take responsibility for it and change it and make it better. But that's not my responsibility, and oftentimes it's futile. Like the efforts that you put in to change it are not only ineffective, they're also like unwarranted, and what's the word I'm looking for? They make the other person feel bad. They're unwelcome. You know? If you spend all of your time in a world where you can change everything and make it exactly how you want, you sort of find yourself in situations where it's not the best course of action to make things exactly how you want, but you find yourself trying to make it so anyway, trying to change these things to make them exactly how you see fit. And that often causes resentment in relationships. I don't know if I do this. I really don't. I try to be mindful of it, but it's a concern that I have. I do have a lot of concerns about relationships, and if I'm doing the right thing. I'm always asking myself, am I doing the right thing in this relationship or in this situation? I often don't know the answer. I really hope I am. You know. But another thought comes into my head that says, nobody's perfect. You know, nobody's ever going to be doing the right thing all the time. But the fact that you're asking yourself if you are doing the right thing means that you're probably taking a step in the right direction. Because a lot of people don't even do that, and that's the reason why they're behaving in the wrong way or doing the wrong thing. It's okay to screw up sometimes. Even a lot, but as long as you improve. I'm getting into stuff that's not really important for this discussion now. Like things that have been said a million times over and over again, but maybe it's worth saying again. Maybe. We went down to the pub, had some pizza an hour ago, and there was a girl sitting on at a table with a pile of roses, and she was taking scissors to these roses and cutting them into cutting their stems short and putting them in little miniature jars, and she was putting them at each of the tables, and I guess that's something that they do, which is nice. She worked there, obviously. I went up to her, I asked her, hey, are you keeping those stems? And she's like, no, we're throwing them out. And I said, can I have one? She's like, sure, take whatever you want. And I took a stem without a rose on it or anything. I went over to Greg, who was sitting at the table where I had just been. I walk over with this stem behind my back and I pull it out and I was like, "This is for you." Anyway, I just thought that was funny. Um, Later, like as we were eating the pizza, one of the other bartenders, a dude, he comes over and he says, I saw what you did with that stem and I thought it was very sweet. I think you deserve this. And he gives me a rose. And I was like, oh, you just made my day. Yeah, anyway, it was funny. Good time. Pizza was good. What I was talking about before this, it was relationships, right? And trying to change things. Yeah. I've definitely spent a lot of my time in environments, namely software environments, virtual environments that I'm afforded the ability to change whatever I want, whenever I want. And that sort of control, I believe, is a good thing. Even though it has some downsides, uh, like I mentioned, I think being of the mindset to change things how you want, that's just so applicable in everyday life. And I have a friend who isn't as much like that, who sees me doing all these things. I take that mindset and I apply it to creating things, like fixing things. Whenever something breaks, I don't really see any limitations in front of me, like thinking, oh, this belongs to somebody else. I don't really want. I could mess it up. I can break it. I don't see those limitations. I just do it. You know. I don't feel any friction in starting things. And where am I going with this? I don't feel any aversion to bending reality to how I want. And a lot of people do feel that friction and that aversion. And this person, my friend, she was like, I find that so interesting. Like, you just do whatever you want. And I guess that's a result of me fostering an environment for myself where I am God, where I can choose. Maybe I have some sort of disagreeable nature to me that makes me want to not take things how they are, but at the same time, I feel like an agreeable person. At times. Other times, not so much. I'm not afraid to say how I think. Most of the time. I believe that truth is the ultimate thing that champions over anything else. It's what speaking the truth with good intention trumps any other form of communication. Any other thing that you can say shouldn't be said. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if you're given the option to lie to save somebody's feelings in the moment, I don't think it's worth lying. I think if it's important that they know the truth, then tell them the truth. Don't save people from themselves now, only for them to hurt themselves even harder in the future. That's sort of that mindset, that the rationalization. It's that people are going to hurt themselves more in the future if they don't hear the truth now. Yeah. So I don't know. So, final thoughts. It's important to. I think it's a good thing to have an environment for yourself where you can play God and bend reality to how you want it to be. But at the same time, there are some drawbacks. You can't get so sucked into that reality that you forget that other people aren't to be changed all the time. You should containerize, really. I think that's the moral of the story. Containerization is important. Things should only exist. In order to be safe, to keep your brain safe, you need to containerize and have certain things exist within virtualized environments. So essentially just turn your psychology into Cubes OS. That's the conclusion here. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. Thank you for watching. I've been in London and I have a lot of stuff to upload. I just need to edit it and figure that out. I want to make some more edits like I did for my graduation. That was a good video that I made. And you don't get to see it because it's unlisted. And it reveals personal details about where I live and stuff. So, anyway, I don't really have to be scared about doxing myself here because I'm not living here for the foreseeable future. So you might see more videos from me from this location. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take care.